Hi, everybody. Welcome. Sorry, this is a special version of Hal Sparks' radio program, Megaworldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Johnny Million is with me, and I am flying today, so this is not quite a full pre-tape because it's just almost as live, just a couple hours early for us, and then Chicago will replay this so that people can hear. So if you're listening on the radio and you're like, "Where's the chat room?" That's what's happening. And it's totally fine. And we will do our best to do the math for Chicago so that we're actually sort of doing the show in its normal format to save them the heck of it. But lots going on, and good morning. And I recognize that this can be discombobulating for people when the schedule is off, especially around the holidays. It's been very difficult for some folks to
deal with. What day of the week is it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's, well, I guess if it's a day ending in Y, it's a day that will have Maga Civil War. Because I was just sharing with Johnny Million right before we started. And let's see if I can bring in our chat room too so they can see us, and I will show them as well. Hi, guys. Good morning to everybody in the chat room who's joining us as well, and we'll be taking your questions later. We're going to see if Phil can join us. It's a bit of a scheduling kerfuffle with him as well, being that he is in a totally different time zone and war zone. So we will do what we can, but at the very least, you can do a lot worse than to have Johnny Million and Hal Sparks by your side on this Saturday, this brisk Saturday morning / afternoon / early midday.
4 hours early, baby.
Yeah. We will discuss some sort of personal matters later in the show, but we will soldier on this morning so as not to get ourselves caught up in things that well, that's all I'm saying. All right. So let's jump into this if we may, because for those that haven't been keeping score in the chat room, and in Radioland, there has been a trajectory that is that MAGA and the phony Doge department and Donald Trump's idea of like running as Santa Claus, which is effectively what he did, especially by the end of the campaign. He was just like, everyone will be happy and there will be joy in the streets and there will be sunshine and rainbows. It was getting that ridiculous, okay?
I still believe him.
Yeah, they do. But I think the reality is... Oh, you do? I see. Yeah. Well, I think you have ulterior motives for feeling that way, if I do say so my damn self. But it's always a mistake when a politician does that. I mean, if you get too far out over your skis with your normal political promises, because there's this trend in the last few decades, I would say, that I've been in my own kind of circles calling Rebel Incorporated, where it's this kind of like anti-government, anti-authority attitude that has been branded and commodified into something that is homogenous and perfunctory and lacks all true rebellion and is really, because it's not necessary. We have a functioning government. We just need to use it the way it's meant to be used. You know what I mean? It's like rebelling against a hammer when you've got a nail you need to drive and you're just like, I can do it with my palm. That nobody ever thought of that. Right. So I saw it in a movie, a kung fu movie on a Saturday morning on UHF once. Right. So this idea that like we'll just be against institutions and the government and the establishment, this just kind of like hacky hashtag concept where you're not actually changing anything. As a matter of fact, you're so against it so as to be useless. The insidious and function.
That's kind of what they want to be. That's the whole Tea Party thing, was to be useless.
Well, yeah, they were running as the party of no. If you could be, if your whole party is designed on throw sand in the gears, right? That's fairly easy. But Trump decided to run on this idea that he was going to. He made promises across the board, and this group of people who kind of run on this idea, from Alex Jones to just kind of your run of the mill, QAnon / maggot, was bought into this like government is the solution to my problems, right? Which is bizarre for them. Like, that is odd that these guys are like, finally, the federal government will do the right thing, right? And their reliance on it is just kind of, there's a lot of hypocrisy to it. There's also a lot of cognitive dissonance to it. There's a bifurcation of their brain.
Yeah, they want to bring the gas prices down to 2016 when before Trump was president. He didn't have anything to do with those gas prices.
Right, and you could argue that he didn't have much to do with any of those gas prices during his presidency. The only thing he probably did was, you could argue that during the
tell OPEC to back down on production.
Yeah, well, Russia and Saudi Arabia were overproducing to drive the prices down. Now, why were they doing that? Were they doing that just as a fight between themselves? Because they're in the same organization. They're in OPEC Plus. So why are they fighting? Gee whiz. Well, it could be that they were trying to kill fracking and expansion in the United States in the crib, which they had been doing the last 4 years of Obama, because that's when the rise in natural gas started growing, and they were worried about Europe not being reliant on Saudi and Russian oil anymore if they switched their factories to natural gas, perhaps produced some of their own coal, restarted their nuclear, and then used fewer gas-powered cars. You do that, Saudi Arabia and Russia become really uninteresting really fast on the global scale. So this was not a fight they were really having, a game of chicken, but a strategy to undermine American energy production. And Trump, and I think the people around him recognized this and said, hey, you got to get them to stop this. Or the oil companies were like, they're going to drive down prices so much, we have no money for exploration and we can't expand. And that was the goal. That was their goal, and it was working. So even his reaction to it was easy to understand. So anyways, we get to, Donald Trump now has surrounded himself with the new oil barons of our time, which is certain technology people. There's a difference, though. There's a real problem with this, Johnny Million. And you and I think, let's talk a moment, if we could, about home recording. So there was a period when if you wanted to make an album as an artist, you had to have a lot of money and a lot of time. You had to find
somebody who would give you a lot of money and that time.
That's exactly right.
Loan you.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And you could pay them back by touring and selling the record, and maybe they would give you real numbers and all that kind of stuff. We could talk to Steven Tyler about that at some point in the future, where he woke up one day, I think whatever $7 million, behind in taxes from the IRS on album royalties he never received from like 1978 to 1985, something nutty, just brutal.
And they put that on his 1099.
Yeah, exactly. And he never saw it. Right?
Poor dude, and he never saw the money. That sounds right.
Yeah. So, but there was a period where if you wanted to make a record, I mean, we all are familiar with oil as a premise where there's a resource under your feet and people have access to it and you don't. And they go, if you want this thing under my feet, you have to pay me whatever I decide it's worth. And so control over that, especially if your transportation and production relies on it, I've got you. It's like being a pharmaceutical company and everything. And there are no generic medicines. There's no alternative that you can find cheaper. I control the price, and I dictate that price. And the more desperate you get, by the more demand goes up, the more my supply is worth money. And so we saw that all during the 80s and into the 90s, and it started to grow until the electric car did its first bump and then started coming back. There was really no conversation about, serious conversation about weaning us off of foreign oil, for example. And that resource is a material singular source. It's one thing. It's oil, it's under the ground, you process it, you burn it, turns into fuel, that's that. And once it's gone, it's gone. But there is a new group of oligarchs like Elon Musk who seem to think the new robber barons who don't recognize that they are the new industrial robber barons who were outperformed, and that's how they lost their position, because production, capability, invention is not a material resource that's under somebody's feet. It's between people's ears, and almost everyone has a similar capability of coming up with an idea. Sometimes it's resource available, sometimes it's not. If you can go to Princeton, or something like that. We do have to take a break. Thank you very much, Johnny. Johnny's watching the time for me so that we can do breaks for Chicago. You're so professional, Johnny Million. All right, the studio analogy when we return. It's the House Parks radio program, Mega Worldwide. And scene. Okay, and then they'll...
scene.
Yes, and then I feel like we should just wait the kind of 2 minutes and talk amongst ourselves, and then, like we do, and almost do it as live, to save ourselves the math of trying to go, wait, we're 6 minutes to two minutes of the... And so, hi, chat room. If you see where I'm going, like needing access to something technological, once that gets in everybody's hands, it's really hard to manage a technological oligarchy. It really is.
It's hard to profit off it.
Yeah, because it has to get cheaper and faster all the time.
Yeah.
So the fast. Well, we'll get to that because I do want to save some of it for what will be on the air in this. And Jerry, thank you for waking up this as well. Yes, 56 Nick's Rich. It is absolutely 8:16 a.m. past the hour. I'm sorry, I need to center myself. I apologize. I think it's the.
I've been posting a note saying, "Good morning, early risers. How less to travel during when we normally do the show. This audio will be broadcast on WCPT during the normal time."
Excellent.
By the way, did you tell Devin that?
I have not yet, because I didn't know that they're in the middle of a show. So I figured we would tell them midway. We would send them a message after our first hour is done, and then he can tune into this, and there we go. So let's come back right now. Approximately, we should be able to wedge it out at 17 minutes. And 3, 2, 1. And we're back. Let's pretend. Zim zam, ba-dim ba-dom, jump PPT, blah blah blah.
That's live.
Johnny Million.
Morning zoo.
Yeah, right. Yeah, with the skeeter out on the street. Thanks. That's the skeeter. It's a little cold outside, so it's when he starts to shiver, he breaks wind. So where were we? Oh yes. Okay. So we were talking a bit about how the resource wars of the last millennia have been about limited farmland, limited fuel sources, maybe the high ground for battle, right? You want to build your castle on a hill, not in a valley. You want control over the hillsides, not the floodplains. Like old-fashioned reasons to fight a war or take some resources or trade with a country, right? But technology is one of those things, man, where its success is determined by how cheap and fast it becomes and how easy to understand it becomes and how simple to use it becomes. Well, that's not the same thing as oil. Like oil doesn't get any better. You can't turn it into gas any easier than you ever have been. The process is still the process is still the process. And so when somebody like Elon Musk starts acting like an oil baron or the guy who owns a printing press, like William Randolph Hearst, there's a lot of people who've thought about like the new digital age, and the people of on right-wing media have started seeing themselves as new media, indie media, and they have access. They're the new, like, I don't know, like he views himself as sort of a William Randolph Hearst in this because he owns Twitter, in the way that William Randolph Hearst owned newspapers all over the place and led to the rules about you can only own one newspaper and one radio station. It was largely based on people like him trying to seize control of the messaging of the country. Well,
and did all the newspapers that he owned just make fun of him the whole time in his own newspapers?
No, and they were also not overrun with Nazis in the classified section, insofar as I know. Just like let
me go to the personals.
Every page I open up, swastika, right? Yeah, like so. But the interesting thing is back then when William Randolph Hearst was doing this, and it was very much a concern at that time, certainly, it was a paper. And so you had to own the mill, or you had to have access to the printing press or own it yourself. And so, you could literally buy the printing press in town, and until your paper was done printing, nobody else could print whatever they wanted. So you could literally slow your roll on purpose if anybody forced you locally to let people buy it or use it or rent it or what have you. But for the most part, if something was going to get printed, it was going to be on the printing press owned by somebody super rich. And that was that. Even, books that were printed had to go through an even narrower bottleneck. Now there is none of that. If you want to say something, put it out there. Right. And between, Substack and Facebook and all these different sites. But unfortunately for Elon Musk, he thinks he's William Randolph Hearst. He thinks he owns the printing press. He thinks that he's a bottleneck by which people get their information because he's the main client on Twitter. He's the person who, he checks. Yeah, Reddit's another great example, EO, in our chat room. So the idea that this guy thinks he's in charge of oil and the printing press, when in reality he's just the head of another toilet paper online site that anybody can jump around and find either conflicting news or other stuff from. Apparently he's the last person to find this out. And there's also a circular firing squad aspect of this that he's starting to find out. So this all comes from Voke Ramaswamy as the, I guess, spokesperson for Doge, or the poster child for it or something. Like he's the gopher. Let's just call them the Doge gopher, is Voke Ramaswamy.
The key grip.
He's the key grip, that's right. Who needs to get a grip. And Voke Ramaswamy puts out this big long screed about how the problem with American society is that we're all we honor the prom queen and the football star over the valedictorian and the whatever. Okay, first of all, that element of his statement sounds like something a Democrat from the 90s would say. It's like us trying to focus more on education than on sports. It's like that. Remember that old grind about like, why do schools have to spend all their money on sports and whatever? It's like they don't. The alums do, and it's part of the thing, right. And it draws attention to the school, and that funding goes into the school, and the attention to the school makes people come there, so the science department gets paid. Like, that's why. But that used to be the grind. I remember I want to say it was a talking point for like 6 years. Like, why do colleges even have sports anyways, right? Well, Vivek Ramaswamy is, because everything is a reboot with these idiots, is dusting off that old chestnut and throws it up there that we in the United States have I guess championed mediocrity for too long. That that American culture, the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over native, in quotes, Americans, isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers. And if I read the rest of it, if I have to click on that, it takes me to X, and I don't want to go there. But
no. Open up your account.
Yeah, it's awful. Well, I don't have an account. And so
good. You waited past the 30, 45 days.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm out. I don't even have an account on there anymore.
Good.
So if I click to it, it opens the app on my computer that wants me to sign up. I'm like, nope, goodbye. It's nice. I get to tell it to go pound sand. But the response to it overall was this idea that, other people trying to clean up after him, Scott Adams and others, like right-wingers who are very MAGA favorable, who consider themselves race realists and all this kind of stuff, are basically like, well, he's only talking about the 0.001% of H-1B visa people that are, are like high-level programmers and whatnot. Okay, first of all, we have plenty of those people here. It's just they work for everyone else. They don't want to bring folks into the United States because they don't exist. It's just because they don't want to have to pay to poach them away from other people. And the really good ones are already spoken for a lot. And they don't want to give them a slice of what they want. So they're effectively just looking for indentured servitude. They hire programmers from overseas because those guys are so happy to have a job and they're only over here on a visa, and maybe they can start their own company later, that they won't rock the boat. They won't stir up trouble at Twitter. So he can hire these workers, and then just like agricultural companies that hire, under the table workers from Mexico and South America can, hang on to people's passports, or they can threaten them, or they can threaten them with deportation, all that kind of stuff. There's a similar version to this with H-1B visas. And, if I fire you, you got to leave the country. And since you're a high level programmer or something, you're probably going to move your whole family over here. You're going to get a signing bonus and all this other stuff. But the minute I cut you off, you're gone. That's why they want them. And that kind of control over those mid to high level workers is what he's really fighting for. Same thing with Vivek, who, by the way, for all this whole thing about like Trump dunking on Kamala Harris for coming in last or getting out early and never getting any votes and all that kind of stuff, Vivek Ramaswamy was like one of the first to get booted from the Republican primary. Got like 100 votes in.
I forgot he was even in it.
Iowa. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And is now an unpaid, non-appointed. I don't even call them an advisor. I mean, it's a lobbying group. Doge is a lobbying group. That's what it is. It's either tech lobbyists who have formed a little clique, and they've got a back channel to the president and friendlies in government who they think will carry out what they want. Well, so does the Heritage Foundation. So does the Federalist Society. What are you talking about? It's the same thing. What's the difference between Doge and the Federalist Society? Nothing. Except the last time I looked, the Federalist Society didn't just insult American culture on Twitter in a page-long screed. So when you've lost cat turd, you're in trouble. And so his response to this Vivek screed was, do I really need to start listing American inventors and what the world wouldn't have without us? Yeah, just like you, cat turd. Thank God you were there to reinvent the wheel and screw in a light bulb. Nikki Haley said, there's nothing wrong with American workers or American culture. All you have to do is look at the border and see how many people want what we have. We should be investing in and prioritizing Americans, not foreign workers. And she's hardly MAGA in that regard. Like she came to heel at Trump's ankle, but she's definitely not a true believer in this stuff. So if she's turning on this, so I guess the overall idea is that Vivek gets into some hot water, and it becomes like a battle between MAGA and them, and the response from Elon Musk wasn't to act as a moderator or explain it or fix it. It was to call maggots that got mad about it contemptible fools.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. So the statement he made, in this sort of ongoing thing was Scott Adams wrote, MAGA's taking a page from Democrats on how to lose elections while feeling good about themselves, and I have to say, I don't know which side of the argument he's on in this. I didn't see the context of the outside of it, nor do I care. But it could, that sounds like a statement that could be read either way. Either a criticism of what Vivek Ramaswamy's saying or a support of it. Like, way to be milquetoast. But Elon Musk responded, yes, and those contemptible fools must be removed from the Republican Party root and stem.
Yep.
That's a dude whose power has gone to his head and thinks that he's in charge of stuff.
Yeah, and in the chat, Acumen just said deplorables ?
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
The response from a lot of maggots was, let's see, trapped department. There was a, the schism may force Trump to ultimately take sides between the largely white working class supporters who first made MAGA succeed and the techno-libertarian billionaires like Musk who are at the center of his new administration, which is like Axios' take on it. But the parallels between Contemptibles and Deplorables was not lost on the folks on Twitter, and they were steaming mad about it. And I'm for it.
Yeah, man.
Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program,
done.
Mega Worldwide. I'm Ron Burgundy. You go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Stay classy, San Diego. I'm Ron Burgundy.
Burgundy? No, I have no idea where he got his hands on German pornography. Well, I think we're both adults and we've both seen our fair share of pornography. Well, I'm sorry. Of course you haven't. I was just speaking in generalities. I'm sorry, Sister Margaret. I'll come down there as soon as I can.
Sister Margaret.
Yeah.
So, hey, I was wondering if I could bring up what's going on so I might be able to raise some funds for a shelter.
Yes, I think that's a lovely idea. Do you want? We'll do it on the air.
So yesterday we had to say goodbye to Miss Flora.
Mm-hmm.
She put up a good fight, but she made it clear that she was done. She'd been running on fumes for a while, so we made the tough decision to help her across. And it's been really hard. 17 and a half years.
Mm-hmm.
She's been with both me and Mrs. Million. And we miss her, and we would love for you to donate. I'm putting this in the chat, in the YouTube chat, to the Catcade, which is our favorite cat rescue and cafe. And you can donate in her name.
What's the URL?
It is thecatcade.org. Thecatcade.org.
CATCADE?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great, if you're in Chicago, go to the Catcade. It is delightful. They have video games and like old classic video games and Nintendos and stuff like that. And it is probably, I've been to a few cat cafes. It is the best run cat cafe I've ever been to. It's perfectly done.
Awesome. Well, we will also, if we can, in the we will in the last quarter of this hour. Let's do that on the air too.
Okay, right.
Chicago. Yep. So
So
coming
we're at
back.
7:33.
Yep. I think we're coming back right now.
Okay.
Welcome back to the show. It's the Houseparks Radio program, Megaworldwide at infotainmentwars.com. We don't need the documents. We have everything memorized. Now with 100% more, Johnny Million. And we were just talking about the war of the Contemptibles against the deplorables. And you hate to see it, except it's hilarious. And I have to say, this is not the only area where this is going to be an issue for Trump, because again, when you run as Santa Claus and arguably Doge is running as the Grinch, like the proud Grinch, that's a conflict. That's eventually you're going to run afoul of each other. And many people thought it would take them a few months at least, there'd be all this glad handing and everybody wouldn't get tired of winning too early. But he hasn't even gotten sworn in, and they've had this. We've already had a near government shutdown. Janet Yellen is saying that they might have to raise the debt ceiling mid-January, like right before or right after or even during the inauguration, which will be hilarious. Republicans and Trump might have a big, fight to kind of like raise or eliminate the debt ceiling. That whole fight is coming. And Trump wants to get rid of it. Now, when's the last time, Johnny Million, you heard somebody talk about eliminating the debt ceiling? Who was it? Yeah.
It's pretty much, almost every administration, but didn't Obama try to eliminate the debt ceiling?
Yeah, well, the idea is that Democrats think it's not in the Constitution. It's money that you've already allocated, so it's an absurdity to begin with. The debt ceiling gets breached not when you run out of money, but when you allocate the money in the first place. So if you can write the check, you have to. You can't say don't cash the check, right? And so when you create a budget, that effectively is the act of Congress that raises the debt ceiling. You're willing to take on this debt. You're buying, you're spending this amount. So why at some point do you have a second one where somebody can rewrite the already allocated funds without creating a new budget where you divert those fundings or get rid of them? The truth is, Republicans have just been wholly unsuccessful at getting rid of social programs that are necessary. Things that Democrats have created, like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, S-chip, SNAP, those kind of things, as programs that they've been wanting to get rid of. But there are two reasons they can't. One is they're generally popular all over the country and people are aware of their necessity, just in general. The other reason is because red states use them more than blue states. There are more red state people on SNAP than there are blue states, even with the population being higher. We're not even talking per capita.
They will not get their brain around that.
No.
I don't get it.
Well, see, I think that's what this is. I think that's what this Contemptibles versus deplorables fight is all about, is that there are Republican senators and especially Congress people who are aware that their district lives on the government teat. And if it gets cut off, it isn't going to be the blue states that suffer because they create the tax base. And if every state, the federal government is effectively there so that every state doesn't have to fend for itself. And in many ways, in the same way that Republican states have more representation for their taxation than Democratic states do. Let's just start there. What was the Tea Party about? Taxation without representation. We couldn't have a say in why we were taxed and how our tax dollars were spent, which is why we don't have socialism in this country. We have democratic taxation. We get a tax taken, just like kings did. Kings took taxes for roads. We just didn't have a say in where they went. And democratic policies and a democratic society says that the average person, through their representative, who they elect, has a say in how their tax dollars are spent. You don't have a veto power like a king would in your own little fiefdom, but you have a say. And Republicans...
And if you tear all this down, like say, do the whole revolution, the 10-minute abs of government,
yes,
it's going to start again.
Yes, right. Because...
Except it's going to start again in the person with the most influence.
Yeah, the irony is just glorious. But again, Republicans have more representation for their tax dollars than Democrats do, blue state to red state. Red states, with whatever, 800,000 people in them, have 2 senators. So does California. That is an imbalance. That is absolutely taxation without representation. That is
for real.
Yeah. And Republicans benefit from that. They benefit from that imbalance. They always have. They have an unfair advantage in these, and they have targeted those things. They went after swing states, specifically Ohio and Florida at one point, but they really did target the smallest populous states to turn them red a long time ago on national security and a bunch of other things. And now it's basically about sports teams. Now it's just you have an R on your jersey, and that's how we roll.
And being afraid of other.
Yes, right. And this whole thing, like, you live in Wyoming, but every state's a border state. I'm like, yeah, but you border Canada. Calm down. What are you worried about? Like donuts and hockey pucks, coming across the border? Simmer. But again, if you're going to fix this imbalance and you're going to render, I guess the debt equal across people and start paying it down and all that kind of stuff, that is going to fall on the backs of rural Americans more heavily than it will urban Americans, because it already falls in an imbalanced way on the backs of urban Americans. People in cities pay for people in the country, period. And the worst, there's 2 things that drive me crazy. Well, there's like 15, but there's 2 main things. One is that imbalance in tax dollars. The idea that California puts out like $1.56 in tax dollars, for every one they get back from the federal government. And, Tennessee or Mississippi pays like 56 cents for every dollar it gets back. It basically doubles its money.
Yeah, those imbalance charts are they should
brutal.
Be humbling.
Yeah, but they aren't. I think they and by the way,
they just don't believe it. They just decide that it's not real.
And chat room, if you guys are looking for something to dunk with, those are the things you can post the most. If somebody's ever bugging you online, especially if they're a hardcore Maga or they're real America, red state or whatever, you can just go, bootstrapper, huh? Because that's the other thing that bothers me.
Entitled, huh?
Right. The thing that bothers me the most about the fact that red states drain more from federal dollars than they put in, and then claim that the government is the problem, which is just amazing, is the fact that they consider themselves bootstrappers. They consider themselves like the real rugged individualist Americans, when in reality their entire state is a nerf state padded with federal dollars. It is.
You can just pretend to be a state without actually getting hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you can, it's like, the same people that make fun of like kids all wear helmets these days. Like, where's your sense of dangerous fun, which is that great Carlin line. And red states clapped at that line. Man, Shevitz. And anti-participation trophy, remember that business? Well, what do you call relying on the federal government for half of your state budget?
Yeah, or just not having a job, but somehow having groceries.
Right. Or relying on your workers to do that. As famously, there was that period where like Walmart workers in all these red states, a good portion of them were on Medicare or were like receiving like welfare, essentially, because they just didn't they qualify for welfare even though they had a full-time job at Walmart someplace. So one of the things that's going to, I guess, come to a shocking end if Doge has its way is the end of the myth of the rugged individualism of rural areas. Because What's the big threat? I mean, probably the biggest department that Trump is talking about getting rid of, and that famously, when like they rifle off the three, the Department of Education is probably one of the first to go. And there are two reasons why they don't like the Department of Education. One, why it was formed. Why was it originally formed? Well, it was to make sure that black schools weren't getting less funds than white schools in southern states
because of the segregation.
Right. And they've had that stuck in their craw the whole time.
Yeah.
And now, in a similar sense, it's this idea that they're telling us what we can learn. They're setting these federal standards and are making our kids live up to what they are, and then kicking God out of the classroom. Which I don't know how you can do that, because I got to say, if you can kick God out of anywhere, it's not a God, right? Wouldn't God be in and of everything just by under the definition? I think you can run the devil out of places. Maybe that's what was there the whole time. Maybe that's why it was able to be run out, like The Exorcist. But point being is that they have this thing about the Department of Education and federal funding and how they're controlled by federal funding, right? Well, there's a real easy fix for that. Invest more in education in your own state, and if the federal government cuts off the funds, so what?
Yep.
Oh, wait, you don't want to. So I just like there is, and then what correspond that with the kind of Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk thing about the H-1B visas and how we don't have enough smart people, and we think too much of prom queens and sports stars than we do of the math valedictorian. Yeah, that's not a problem in big blue states.
Right.
It just ain't. It's a problem in red states. I mean, these are the states, if you'll recall, who, like, if a sports star is accused of sexual assault, the whole city backs up the sports star because we got to win.
Ugh, that makes me so angry.
Ugh, exactly. So the premise that they have operated, this rugged individualism nonsense, and the fact that they got and we're the snowflakes, but being called deplorables freaked them out.
Yep.
Oh, the pearl clutching. How dare you? How can you call us this, right? So between the two of those things, there is a conflict that is brewing and has started to bubble over in Maga versus, the tech bro, dork Maga versus, run of the mill Maga is, and you could see it coming a mile away. Like anybody could chart this. It's why it's weird that you've got a tech billionaire, one of the richest people in the world, if you don't count the money Xi Jinping has hidden and the money that Vladimir Putin hides and the Saudi royal family's, 65 accounts and whatever they hide all over the world that makes their net worth look smaller. And of course, they're a lot more liquid, I guess. Yeah. We got to take a break. When we come back, I'd like to, if you would, Johnny Million, tell everybody out there in Radio Land about the charity that people can contribute to and why. We'll bring that up when we come back. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Thanks for helping me with the breaks, Johnny Million.
Yeah.
And we're clear in theory, and I think we're doing all right. Now,
we're doing okay.
Yeah. So when we break here, we'll come back at 49, and we'll talk for 11 minutes. That'll work, I think. Okay, and then let's see. Philip can't come on. He's got alerts going on near his computer and not near his computer. Understood.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So, and I don't want to.
Understandable.
Absolutely. So it's just the two of us to end the year together, Johnny Million.
Aww.
Yeah.
Look at us.
And chat room, thanks. Yes, no cussing. Thank you. Brooklyn, New York. We're trying. We're doing our best, I think. Is this live, Cat Fem? Yes, it is. It is live, but it won't be later. Time for a swear jar.
It will not be.
Huh?
It's live, but it won't be later.
Yeah, that's right. When it's on the radio, it won't be live. This is live-ish. All right. So let's come back in a few seconds whenever it clicks over to 49.
It's like I'm showing 48:30 right now.
Okay, so we got 30 seconds
of 49.
Yeah. Look at you. Okay. You got a second hand and everything. I don't have my.
I do. I've got a cute little clock app. Sometimes I use this on my.
Oh yeah, phone. Look at that. That's very helpful. Oh yeah, when you turn your phone sideways. Mine's on the charger because I need to because we got as soon as
I typically do the charger one, but I've got a new phone recently and I'm trying not to like get the battery.
Yes, you're trying to train how to train your battery. Okay, we're back.
Yep. Okay, it's 49.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A La Jolla man clings to life after being attacked by dogs in an abandoned swimming pool. Sorry, that's a Anchorman joke. We've been watching it over the holiday, and I apologize. Right out of the gate, welcome back. It's House Parks radio program, Mega Worldwide, with Johnny Million. It's Johnny Million is the name of his live stream show, and it's nice that we can have just the two of us at the end of the year, for this particular show. Johnny, because I love and adore you, and I want you to tell everybody kind of what you've been through with your situation.
It's been a lot of ups and downs this holiday season, and yesterday Mrs. Million and I had to make the hard decision to help Flora across the Rainbow Bridge at the ripe old feisty age of 17 and a half years. Mm-hmm. And it's been pretty raw. Mm-hmm. But for some reason right now, I'm not about to fall apart, which is a nice change of pace. And it's why I look perpetually sleepy. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because our favorite rescue cat cafe is called The Catcade here in Chicago. And you can donate on Flora's behalf. You can just, like in the additional information, say this is in memory of Flora. And I'll put the link in the YouTube chat, but it is simply thecatcade.org, like an arcade.
Yeah, CATCADE, Catcade, thecatcade.org, and then you can just put in the notes that this is for Flora, Flora. I don't know that you ever told me where you got her name from.
We were just in the past, when we have adopted cats, her name, I believe, in the rescue, we wanted to stick with the same first letter that she had. Uh-huh. And her name when she was an itty-bitty kitten at the bottom of a kitten pile was
Don't Felicity. Say that word. Oh, okay. I was so worried it was another F word and you'd get us bumped.
And so we wanted to use the same letter, and we were driving home, and Mrs. Million said, "Is her name Flora?" And we all agreed that was probably her name.
All right. Well, yeah, when I lost Chud recently,
which is an amazing name because Chud was a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Yes, that's true. She lived under my house in Venice, and she shared the underside of the house with a family of possum that they kept to one side and she kept to the other, and it took me almost 2 years to lure her into being a house cat.
You earned it.
Yeah, it was like I want to say it was like 17 months before I was able to get her to cross the threshold with leaving the door open, and then I finally closed the door behind her to keep her in the house to see if she would settle in, and she ran into the bathroom closet. Like just skittered around, you know how they do with like her shoulders got real low and she just skitched, through the place.
Yeah, the way they alligator crawl.
Yeah, and she zipped in and she hid behind the hamper and she just wailed. And fear, just wow, just
she's terrified.
Yeah, and then I let her, hang out there for a little bit, and then I pulled back the thing, and she was kind of darty-eyed, but she recognized me, and I'd been feeding her for a while, so she was okay with me. It was just not being inside. And then I walked over the door and opened it out, and boom, she ran back out. And then the next day, she wandered in on her own. I left the back door open.
Nice.
And she wandered in on her own. And then it was like a week, and she was up on the bed. I come back in my room, and which was opened out onto the backyard and had a door, and she'd hopped up there and was sleeping on the bed. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And
that's the best.
She was like,
it's so
spooked.
funny when I see videos of people saying, "This is not my cat." And there's just a cat that looks very at home.
Yeah, just walking through the kitchen or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or
yeah,
sleep on the couch. There's already a dent at the top of the couch cushion.
Right. And there's neighborhood cats that can be like that. We have one in Vegas near our house there that walks along the wall, and we feed it outside sometimes. But it's clearly a cat from somebody else's house that's like, they're like, let the neighborhood feed this thing. So they just let it out.
That's so funny. Yeah, when a whole neighborhood owns a cat, and they've got different names for it.
Right. Yeah. I give them.
Really? That's Rascal. We call him Two Fist.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Two Fist. I like it. Everything's named after an anime. I give them prison numbers. Yeah, right. I give them prison numbers. Inmate 71593. But the idea that this, when she took her time, she got her name because she lived under the house, and I named her that before she was ever. I figured she'd just stay feral, but I was tearing everything.
Yeah. So you're like, that's my underground cat.
Yeah. And then she moved with me everywhere I went after that, and she, we had her till she just gave up everything. It was a rough ending for Chud, but she went out swinging, and then I got Chip. He was a foster fail, and Summer names the cats with euphonic names like Murphy, sure. Maddie, Molly. They all start with the same letter, that kind of stuff. Chip and Chud was an accident. Because Chud, I had named her, but Chip was his name on the foster form. It was already it because he looked like vanilla chip ice cream. It was like white with little black spots. So that's all we're doing. We're just telling cat stories at the end of the hour today, just because we can. I hope that's okay with everybody in the chat room.
Yeah, when we went to adopt Flora at a great place out in DeKalb where we used to live, it was called Tails. Mm-hmm. I had my heart set on one kitten who, when I took Mrs. Million to visit that kitten, that cat was out of her mind. And we're like, maybe we could see some other kittens. I might have made a bad choice. So they brought out, like all from the same family, this lady brought out a bouquet of kittens on her bosom. And they were all just mushed together. And I think there were 5 or 6. And we just sat down in the middle of this room, and all the kittens were around, and there were some feisty ones and some bully ones and some really pretty ones. And Flora was the one who, when she was messed with, she didn't care. She just rolled with it. Mm-hmm. And we knew that we were bringing her into a household with another cat. Mm-hmm. And so we're like, we'll pick the one that doesn't really seem to mind when other cats mess with her. And she was actually the hellion. She ended up picking on Mustafa.
Oh, no.
Mustafa picked on her. Yeah. Whenever there was a fight, Mustafa's fur was everywhere, not hers.
Right.
But at the end, like, she was probably 13 pounds at her biggest. She wasn't the biggest cat. Yeah. But when we weighed her on her last visit, she was 4.7 pounds.
Oh, kiddo. Yeah.
She couldn't hold herself up anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, we have, there's 3 dogs at the house here. Berkeley, Honey, and Moose. And Honey is Berkeley's mom. They're 2 golden labs, long hairs. Moose is a pit boxer Marmaduke mix. I don't know, he's gigantic and well named or whatever, but he's getting a little long in the tooth and his back legs aren't doing so well. So he just sits on the couch, and anytime the doorbell rings or somebody knocks, instead of running to the door and barking, he just goes, "Bo, go, 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 go." It's very sweet. I love Moose.
Just phoning it in.
Yeah, he's totally phoning it in. And bless his heart, he's able to. The reason we're telling you guys all this, by the way, is because thecatcade.org in Chicago. Please support them, or and you can donate in Flora's name and go down
They've
there.
got great merch too. I've worn their. I almost wore their shirt today, but I wore it on Flora's last day.
And I appreciate it because
they've got really fun merch. It's like an 80s vibe. And it's a great visit. Make a reservation and go spend an hour with the coolest staff and the sweetest cats.
Yeah. And catcade.org. And at some point we'll do some sort of like maybe next spring or something, we'll do like a fundraiser for them. I'll come into town and we'll do something in town.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
bet we could.
Because we do it in Vegas.
Some kind of remote thing, yeah.
Yeah, because we've done events for the place we've gotten three of our cats from in Vegas. We've done special stuff for them as well. So it's worthwhile. It's a really nice feeling, and it's and it's quite frankly, it's really fun to go and pet cats all afternoon and call it business. It's lovely. So, all right, we're almost near the bottom of the hour, and we'll take a break, and then we'll do the math.
News.
Yep, there will be news for 5 minutes, and we'll do that math, and then we'll come back. I think what we might do is just do a quick break and keep going, and then kind of do the math off that, because I have to catch an airplane, so I have to be right out the door as fast as possible.
After doing all these.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
All right, and if you forgive me, I'm going to run to the potty real quick and turn off the microphone.
Okay, thank God for that. All right, well then I'll wait for you to come back and we'll start this part.
Okay.
And we'll do that, and I'll talk to the chat room while you're gone. Let's see if I can pop this in. And chat room thing, where is it? There it is. There's the chat. Excellent. Hi, hold on. I'll put this in here like this. Boop. Yeah, there you are. Hi. Yes, the Catcade. I once had 24 rescue cats and found homes for all of them. Oh my God. Rock Kitty South. You kept 6. That's a pretty good ratio. 5 minutes of stuff. That's right. No questions today. We can do that. Yeah, absolutely. We can do that during the second hour. Take normally questions that you'd have for Phil, but stuff that you guys want to talk about. That'd be an absolute way to help us. With the flow of the show, would be great. There's Moose. Did you hear that? Can you guys hear Moose? Boom. Yeah, my daughter Taffy is from the Chicago Catcade. Oh, that's awesome. Hey, what's happening, moms? Good morning, everybody. Hello. Yes, it's an early show. Yes, you're still dreaming. It's an early show today because I have a flight to catch. Holiday travel being what it is, so I'm pre-taping the show so Chicago can pull audio from this. And so we're doing it kind of in the same timing format, as it were. And yeah. Thank you. I love my hair down too. Having it up, it's getting so long that it gets heavy. and I was like, why am I getting headaches? I'm like, oh, because my hair is heavy and I've got it in a ponytail all day long. It's rough on your occipital back here. Yeah, your hair gets like pulls on that. Yeah, ladies, and fellow hippies and metalheads. Good morning, Jerry. How are you?
Hello.
There he is. He's back. Hold on. Johnny Million is the back.
Closer to 2 minutes.
Okay. So, yeah.
So, Devin, excellent. The news is over.
Yeah. So we'll come back from news in like 5 seconds or something like that. And then we will do 10, 13, 13, 13 is how we'll kind of do it with breaks in between. So he can pause it how he will. And okay. So, and if you could text him and say we're pre-taping and let him know too.
Yeah, I'll let him know.
Yeah, while it's going on. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2. And we're back. Welcome. It's the Houseparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk with Johnny Million. Johnny has a live stream, it's called It's Johnny Million on Twitch and on YouTube. And then, of course, I have my live streams at infotainmentwars.com. That'll take you to the YouTube page. Also on the Facebook page, if you want to sign up on there, if you prefer it. I believe in bringing, don't bring the mountain to Moses, bring Moses to the mountain. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I go to the audience where they are. I don't make you guys all gather in one spot so you can get sniped. That seems wrong. So I'm on, we're on Instagram normally for the live stream. Not today, apologies, because it's just the nature of the funnel of the imaging on this. Yes, and we will watch our language because it is radio, and we will not get lulled into this false sense of security because we're streaming as well. So
and there's a happy early birthday for Andrea, the mod, tomorrow.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, tomorrow's her birthday. Which I was.
What doesn't Andrea do for our shows?
I know. And talk about herding cats. Some of our guests, my goodness. The question is when is she going to get music collaborators as guests on Johnny Million's show? We'll get there eventually. They'll have to be local though, because
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, playing across the internet is very difficult. It's a pain in the butt.
It's tough, yeah.
So, in the first hour we talked about the fact that Vivek Ramaswamy had written this big screed about lambasting American culture and crapping all over it, and Elon Musk had called the people who were mad about it contemptibles and said they had to be excised from the party root and branch. And he just to follow on that, he followed up.
Doesn't sound dirty when he says it.
Because he's gross. This is the post he put in support of Vivek Ramaswamy. The reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of H-1B. Okay, first of all, what are you talking about? Look, if you want to talk about the rocket program created by Operation Paperclip, I don't think snatching Nazi rocket scientists who didn't want to die at the hands of Polish authorities or the Germans themselves in this "if I can't have you, no one can" kind of attitude with their scientists afterwards. It's not exactly the H-1B visa. This was the Operation Paperclip was not the first H-1B, but also the critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies. So I'm sorry, the SpaceX and Tesla, they're no critical, many critical, with so many critical people who built this. I guess the Americans that work there aren't critical, is the point he's trying to make. Whatever. Okay, take a big step back, he says, and go F yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. Okay, first of all, someone has been mainlining too many Trump speeches. But also, that's the Les Grossman line that Tom Cruise did in Tropic Thunder, poorly quoted. It is
no. He's being the jackass director from Tropic Thunder?
Yeah, not the director, his agent.
Oh, it was his agent?
Yeah. He's the agent. He's the producer of the film, and that's right. He's the producer of the film from the studio. He's the studio head with the bit.
But he blows up, right?
No, he does. No, that's the director.
The one that blows up?
No, he's not the one that blows up. He's Tom Cruise's character with the big hands who plays rap music and dances and says "play ya." Yeah. So when he's talking to the triad gang that the heroin gang that they get captured by, he goes, take a giant step back and F your own face is the line. And just get it right is my point. If you're going to do that, if you're really going to quote it, then quote it. Otherwise, make up your own line. You know what I mean? It's aggravating. Check it. Check the quote before you. It's and Johnny, don't look it up on your phone right now, because if you do, your phone will play and the audio will come through, and we'll have to dump, because there's more F-bombs in that than just that one. You were about to do it. I caught you. You were about to do it.
All right,
so
I'll just do the David Lee Roth thing.
Hi ha. Right. Okay. Yeah. So this is an yeah. That's I could pull quotes from me doing Nerd Halen pretty dead on. So and yeah I guess it's the F Your Feelings crowd are having a moment over there. Yeah. Also, people were wondering if you're going to farm questions, even though Phil isn't here for this week's episode, and I said yes. Sure. So if people have questions, they can throw them Johnny's way, and we can also, because we have time in this, we can thank the super chat people. Seahawk says, have you watched Luke B versus Tim Pool and his cadre, one liberal versus four idiots? I've seen clips of it. I've not seen the whole thing, but it's pretty glorious. Every bit I've seen is pretty terrific. Now, again, Luke Beasley is good at what he does, pays attention, has a good memory for details, cares, all those things, which is the kryptonite of Tim Pool's entire business model, because those guys run on not giving a crap, being libertarian adjacent, and doing the fact shuffle whenever it doesn't suit them. So on the one hand, he's shooting ducks in a barrel. On the other hand, it was good of him to go there and show how easy it is, and even make it look easy, even if people feel like it isn't. So good work. And Seahawk also said by the midterms they will be tooling Donald around in FDR's wheelchair like Admiral Pike. Yeah, that's what I've said. From Star Trek, are Elon and Viv the next two butthead guys? Yeah, well, they will be butting heads. But I think the reality is that Vivek is kind of the secretary in charge of actually doing the ugly parts of this Doge nonsense. Elon wants to be like the king of this, special dispensation lordship that he's made himself. Whereas Vivek has to do all the kind of explaining. He's doing all the podcasts, breaking it down, both, trying to play nice with some folks and also, I guess, doing, some of the, dropping the bad news. He's the messenger for some of the bad news, because there is no version of this Doge nonsense that doesn't involve cutting programs in red states. And so he's going to have to be the guy that says this. He's going to be the guy, because Elon Musk doesn't care, and he's going to, he wants to talk in the broader terms and just tout his own value. Whereas Vivek's only value in this equation is that he's the guy who will, I'll take the job of going out and telling everybody the bad news. So I gotta say, that's an unenviable task. It couldn't happen to a worser guy, and I don't care if if he catches hell from Maga in this situation. But there is no situation where Donald Trump, on the one hand, makes all the promises he's had, the biggest tax cuts ever, and not touching Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, where any of his stuff the rest of the stuff he wants to do is going to happen. And this idea that tariffs are going to pay for it, which is hilarious and ridiculous and stupid and foolish and silly and dumb and all those things. Or that we're going to, quote, grow our way out of it. That's old school Reagan crap that caused the first downturn during Reagan's term. When Reagan was, nearly capsized the economy and led to Democrats taking over the House and Senate, right? That was because he was like, oh yeah, we don't have to worry about that. We'll just grow our way out of it. We'll give tax breaks to businesses. They'll expand so much within the borders of the United States that it'll create jobs. The tax revenue will go through the roof, yada, yada. So we've seen this before. This is just another version of trickle down. The interesting thing is that there is a way I'm going to shock everyone. Here, get ready. There is a way that trickle-down economics can work. It works really well if it doesn't have to trickle down to everyone. See what I mean? Like that is the unwritten, unspoken secret of trickle-down economics. The only problem with trickle-down economics is that everybody expects some of the trickle-down to happen to them. And that's never the plan. Trickle-down economics is from the absolute top to the near top. That's it. And usually it's your own kids.
Right.
It's just generational wealth and generational businesses and a tax break for people to secure their wealth through other means.
Yep.
Right? That's the key. Like, so if you have to worry about poor people, then trickle-down economics falls apart fairly quickly. And again, one of the things that you have a problem with when you have businessmen running the government and talking, and our side of the aisle has done our own damage over the years. Look at the movie Dave, which I think is seen as a liberal movie, because when he does that, Charles Grodin is his own Doge. He brings in, if you don't remember the movie, this guy who impersonates the president is called in when the president is in a coma and the evil people around him want to continue their programs. And so they have him step in for, continuity of government. Right. In case he wakes up and then he dies and then And so Dave is just this guy who's not the president of the United States, but has to pretend to be him. And then he starts legislating and doing all this stuff. And he wants to save money for homeless shelters, which is a very comic relief, late 80s, early 90s story point, right? I mean, hey, in Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, what were they trying to do? They were trying to save the community center that was going to be turned into condos by an evil developer. Donald somebody.
How does everybody our age know that movie? I did not see it. And everybody knows Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
And yet you know it. Well, you know it in periphery. You know elements of it. In the same way that if you've never seen Terminator, you still know I'll Be Back.
Yes, right.
So, we've gone, we're at the break. So we got to take a break.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, 8:15.
Right. When we come back, questions from the chat room and why
I only have one so far.
And why trickle down doesn't it is going to splash in their face. We'll be back.
Ew.
Thanks. Very nice. It's very nice of you. That's great. Man, I'm gonna have to do that. Pack my stuff up and throw it in my bag really fast. Tech fold up where everything just
What's that? Who's the comedian who it says who wonders why there are luggage stores at the airport?
Well, oh yeah, right. Why there are luggage stores at the airport? Yeah.
Yeah. Just grab all your stuff. We'll buy a bag when we get there.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is when it's through security already.
Yeah.
Why is that store on the other side of security? It should be like, I have too much stuff, and it's cheaper to check another bag than pay a fine for a heavy bag, as it should be, by the way.
Buy a bag.
So go buy a bag, put it right
to the other gate. Yeah.
No, now you got to go through security, buy it, and come back out. What is that? Is that the plan? Seems stupid. Okay, Let's come back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Houseparks Radio program, Megaworldwide. Zippity ding, bong, bong, bing. We're on the air, and it's a lot of fun. And and I appreciate everybody tuning in for us today, because it's a holiday travel day. We get back to semi-normal at the first of the year. But in the meantime, my schedule's been all over the place, as has many other folks. And it's interesting because not being on top of the news and, during the holidays, I have been able to speak to, relatives, many of who voted for Harris. Some did it surprisingly with some reticence, which should have been a bellwether. And largely it was about a couple of things. One was, and I don't know if you saw this story this week. This guy Brian, and by the way, don't dump me on this, Chicago. This is his real name, Brian Schatz, who I know, Democrat from Hawaii. He's a House Democrat.
Conjugate that verb.
I will not. I will not on the air because I don't need to be bleeped just because I'm saying someone's name. So he brought up one of the reasons why, and he's not wrong. Okay, let's be abundantly clear. It's not. This shouldn't be on him for bringing this up. In a don't kill the messenger kind of a way. We know that Trump and his ilk are on a collision course on a multitude of strands, and we will watch that happen. In the meantime, we have some housekeeping to do to make sure that our people get elected and actually can do the work once they're in there, right? This is crucial. And one of the things that keeps showing up is this idea that Democrats were the party of the elites this time, which is hilarious. And where did that come from? What is that about? Well, it's not about the policies as much as Republicans would like to say it. It really isn't, because the policies, especially when they get written down and implemented, become incredibly popular. It's why Biden was able to pass an infrastructure bill and Trump wasn't. It's why the ACA, as much as Trump wants to kill it, he calls it a disaster but can't come up with a better plan. How can you not come up with a better plan than a disaster? I mean, right? How bad do you have to be?
It seems like you could just fall up the stairs and do that.
Right, but somehow you can call this thing a disaster, but you can't come up with anything but concepts. Maybe it's not a disaster. Maybe it works really well, and you just don't want to admit the fact that you don't have an idea that would fix the same problem, and you know that, and everybody around you knows it. So you can just, you talk about it like my parents are going to kill me when they're actually not going to murder you, but you're being all dramatic about it, right? It's just kind of like childish language. So one of the things that they went through when they're doing a postmortem, the Democratic Party, the DNC, sent out a lot of pollsters and people to do focus grouping. Like, what was it? What was the miss? And the biggest part of it turns out to be largely jargon. This idea that words are more important than ideas, and that you can jump down somebody's throat for not using the right words about something, even if their heart is in the right place. Meanwhile, this slapdash racism on the right just gets a total pass, right? They don't have that problem. We do. You can't hamstrung your ideas over words and do this whole words are violence kind of stuff, which not only cheapens the impact of violence, but it also weakens the people that you are allegedly offended on behalf or trying to protect. You are infantilizing them and weakening them instead of going, standing strong with them. You are standing weak with them in that regard. So that was one of the concerns. It was aligned in some ways with not the usage of pronouns, but the idea that if someone doesn't use your pronouns, they're dehumanizing you, which no one has the power to do. I would like to say to all our trans friends out there, no one can dehumanize you. You're a human and you deserve respect and all that. And no one can take it away from you without your permission. And if somebody's just being a jerk or being rude, I had this conversation with my cousin about, in my kid's school and in his kid's school, they talk a lot about bullying. They have over the last, it's basically the impact of Columbine. That, it's this idea that guns don't kill people, kids getting bullied kill people, and therefore we have to stop the bullying because maybe we'll stop the next shooter. That was the theory in schools. So like if we intervene in these situations, maybe we won't have these kids building these grudges. And it doesn't quite work that way, and it's not that simple. But what happened was, in the commonality of the word, using bully, now everything qualifies as bullying. Anytime a kid is just being a jerk or being rude, the kids call it bullying. But the reality is, it's only rudeness or being an a-hole, unless you physically can accost someone or the person is impacted. It's bullying when you accept it, right? A bullying, for bullying to actually occur, there has to be an accepting victim of bullying. You can't bully somebody who doesn't buy into your power play. You can't do it. They need you to acquiesce. It has to work to be bullying. And so it was really important for me, to teach my son and others that no. Bullying is very specific. And this kid's just being rude.
Yeah.
Tell me what he said. Okay, he's just being a jerk. That's not bullying unless you feel scared or he can, you feel intimidated or you behave differently because of how he treats you. Okay, so that languaging about bullying and being on the receiving end of bullying means that you have to argue for someone's victimization even if they don't. And that happened a lot on our side. And it's largely because, and I've spoken about this on the live stream, the homogenization of attacks on immigrants by the Republicans and by Trump specifically, this giant cascading there, he in 2016, he was saying, they're rapists, they're murderers and whatever, and some of them I assume are nice people.
Very nice people.
He stopped saying the some are nice people part this time around, right? And naturally, when you attack people by race as a broad group or by religion as a broad group, the natural response is to defend them as a broad group. It's hard to have a gray area conversation about a group of people that may not be monolithic without seeming like you're giving into the other side's criticisms or buying into some of what their talking points is. So unless you're like, racism, the answer to racism is anti-racism, which unfortunately is too simple a conversation. That's what it turned out to be. And that people enforcing a need for jargon, and specifically the ones he brings up are a little more academic. He brings up this whole thing about using language like centering or making room for. We're centering the needs of so-and-so. We're making room for the space of this group or whatever, when no one talks like that. In normal parlance, nobody outside of academia and maybe some activist groups talks about these issues that way. And it's okay to do it in those circles. You know what I mean? When in Rome, as Ron Burgundy said. But, right?
I'm liking the Ron Burgundy.
Right. I'm still trying it on. I don't really know what it means. When in Rome, that doesn't really apply to this conversation. But the idea of using that language when you're in academic circles, awesome, good, great, get to the point. Because if you're, if you're speaking the language of the people around you, you will get to your point much faster. The problem is there was this attempt. And I think the biggest one that kind of got the biggest blowback by the community it was directed at was Latinx. Latinx got more blowback in Latino communities than anything because it was seen as, far left activists trying to degender a gendered language, because Spanish is a gendered language. It is. Mm-hmm. It's not just like turning women into Ymen, using a Y instead of an O, or those kind of things in English where we play a little more fast and loose with creating words in the English language. Don't get me started on unsweetened iced tea, but we're or how many letters Worcester has in it, right? So many letters. Yeah, but overlaying that kind of English, the easily manipulated nature of English as a language, because it is effectively a genderless language for the most part, except some of the words that have, maybe come from French. But Spanish is absolutely not. Neither is Portuguese. And so all of South America, the language down there, everything is gendered. And is allocated by size and gender. I mean, there's a lot written into it, right? And so for American left-wing activists to roll in and go, we're going to X out this corresponding letter in your identity that you use, and say and zero it out. They took offense to it. Large part, most of this stuff's coming, and there are certainly people who are fine with it. I'm sure people will pop up in the chat or something that will go, I don't have a problem with it. I'm sure you don't, and nor would I guess. But I'm not Latino, and I wasn't raised with a gendered language, and I don't, go to church where the sermons are translated into a gendered language and the like. And so to flick it away like it's nothing and insert that on top of it, there was a real pushback against that. And that's just one example. Again, it's not to nail down on that one particular thing. But there was a lot of jargon over communication. Now, the right has a similar problem. And they're running up against it right now. That's the America First versus hiring H-1B visa people. That's a big part of it, right? Obviously. So they're not without their struggles in this regard. But we can't, nor would we want to, solve their problems. Not going to. Right? I'm not in the business of fixing Republicans' problems for them. But I will say that overlay, and again, our imposing of linguistic rules over something when they have not even been fully clarified on our side becomes a real problem. Because there's argument within communities about whether or not it should be like there's a big movement to reclaim transsexual from the word transgender, because non-binary people took transgender when they're not transitioning from a gender to a gender, right. And so transsexuals, or people who viewed themselves as transgender and the like, seem to be angry about that. That's something that has to be worked out, and with respect for the people involved. Not through shouting matches over the sheer existence of either side. And so if we're going to be the inclusive group, we got to recognize that we can't go all in on stuff before it's had a chance to shake out. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. And this one's like a 2-minute break.
I think so.
Yeah. And then we'll come back and leave room for a happy ending.
Hey now.
Yeah. Look out.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Guys, how many times have I told you, if you put it in the teleprompter, Ron will say it.
That's one of those, the sequel was absolutely over the top, and I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to top that out.
The fight scene full of all the cameos.
Oh, yeah. How good news, I'm in remission after, oh, fantastic. After 6 years of fourth stage cancer. Oh my God, Jeanette, that's fantastic. No oncology appointments until May of 2025. That's amazing.
Wow.
Look at that, Jeanette.
That's forever away.
Congrats. Look at that. Right on, Jeanette. Christmas miracle due to new cancer drugs. Yeah, that's fantastic. Again, things are going to change. Things are getting way better. And again, there's a lot to look forward to, and every day, as much as we deal with Trump and Musk and all these idiots, you have to understand, every single day, billions of people wake up trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Johnny's one of them. I'm one of them. I know that 96% of our chat are that way. Well, I got to leave room for trolls and the occasional nihilist lefty.
I think we're at 2 minutes.
Yep. And we're back. Welcome back to the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio. It's also a podcast if you want to check it out at the House Sparks podcast, Mega Worldwide, wherever you get your podcast. It is podcasting there. And I'm House Sparks, and I will be House Sparksing the rest of the show. Now, Johnny Million, there was a question, and I didn't get to it in the last one because I was too busy listening to the sound of my own voice. What was it?
I did see, this is a question from 56 Nick. Ask Hal about his Eddie Raspberry Pi.
Oh, my Raspberry Pi? Oh, my Eddie Raspberry Pi. Oh, yes. Okay, so I have been, for some people that know, I've been experimenting with these small computers that you can build, kind of, that can work on and offline. You can download AI large language models into them and create your own home-based AI. And so between Home Assistant, which is this programming system that you can use on a Raspberry Pi or a small computer, or even download onto a regular computer if you want to leave it on all the time.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, that you can run. I am going to, between now and the spring, make an Eddie from Lab Rats using one of these things and a video screen and the animations from the show, so that I can literally run my house as Eddie, using Eddie as Mr. Davenport. Yeah, yeah. I'll unveil it. It may not take me as long as I think. I'm giving myself a very long window, like 90 days to do it. But I think it could be done way faster. And Rob Glenn will probably make it work even faster. Bless his heart. Our dear friend from Root Design in Chicago, who joins me on Friday's morning show on infotainmentwars.com and at all my social media sites for Friday Eye, where we go into AI pretty deeply, which is, again, brings us back to a couple of things. One is, and this is going to be...
I do have another question before you kick off.
Oh, yeah. Oh, please. Yeah, go ahead.
So, and this could probably be a whole segment. Kathleen Matthews wants to know your take on Trump trying to start a fight over Greenland and the Panama Canal and Canada being the 51st state.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So 100%. Okay. He wants a monument. Trump wants a ship or a statue or something. And no doubt he'll get a tugboat or something later after this is all over, because you can't make your own boats. So somebody else has to do it. So, somebody's going to give him like the naval bilge ship who's responsible for draining the bilge pumps on ships at sea and taking them to international waters and dumping them so squid have something to eat and or whatever. And he wants a monument. And initially, he wanted the wall to be his thing. He wanted this Great Wall of China thing. But he doesn't like the design. The slat fence see-through thing with the anti-climbing panel. He thinks it looks like crap, and he doesn't want his name on it. So the next best thing is a new territory. The state of Trump, right? And that's what most of this is about. The Panama Canal stuff is something somebody told him at a party, and that like how many soldiers and people we lost, digging it and making it.
So many people died making the Panama Canal. It's crazy.
Yeah. And so he heard that story and he's like, we should just have it. In the same way, he talks about Iraq like we should keep the oil. He thinks it's a protection racket because, by the way, he's been downstream from power his whole life, so that's what he thinks power looks like. So the mob.
Nice canal you got here. Be ashamed of something where
well, somebody was to drain the water out of it. Then where would the fish go? So Trump Tower is famously built as a giant concrete structure when everybody else were building glass and steel. He used more concrete because he was friendly with the mob, and the mob was cutting him a deal because of his other properties and because he was cozying up to him, right? So he's always been downstream from them. If you don't use our concrete, then you're in real trouble. Oh, okay, well then I'll use more concrete. Sure, I'll make a whole concrete building. Leave me alone, guys, right? Let me do 3 other buildings, and you can do this whole building concrete, because my dad's going to pay for it. And then let me do my other buildings with cheap Chinese steel. That's basically what the deal he made with them was. So he thinks that that's how everything works. He thinks America, he thinks like our military bases all around the world, he and idiots like Jimmy Dore think that that's because of, the military control we want over other countries, instead of we police the waterways so that international trade goes everywhere, because if we don't, pirates will starve huge chunks of Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, period. And the minute we pull out of those areas, it's exactly what happens. If you look at diverted ships out of the Mediterranean, after October 7th, where they went around to the other side of Israel that's where the Houthis started hitting ships that were going through the area. If we're not there to police them, that's what happens on the regular as they pass, through that choke point. So that's it's Trump has this idea that he's gonna buy Greenland, and he'll be responsible for the next version of the Louisiana Purchase. The Canada thing is him just being insulting to Justin Trudeau because Melania thinks he's attractive and he's a young leader, and Trump feels old and mad. And insofar as Mexico and his whole, even the thing about him bombing the cartels, that has more to do with a woman being president of Mexico than it has to do with anything else.
Bombing the cartels.
Yeah. But he think this is all about him wanting a monument to himself after his presidency. He's dealing with his own mortality right now. He feels like crap. He's scared to death. He doesn't know what's going on. And the only thing, his whole life, he's just had his name, on stuff. So that's the only point of reference he has, Meanwhile, you got Biden, who's a president who is literally planting trees he will never sit under the shade of, which is the sign of true ethics. Right. Building bridges he will never cross. And Trump isn't interested in that at all. Half of the reason they're having to allocate not just the money for the spending for the CHIPS Act, but money for infrastructure projects, is because they don't want him to roll in there and start choking off blue states or any district that he didn't win from getting their bridges or roads fixed. So, and they had to allocate it in the infrastructure bill in such a way that Republican governors couldn't just only give the money to, red districts. They had to
Do we
go
have
through.
time for another question before
I think so.
the break?
Yeah.
All right, this what I kind of like. This is from Julianne Hayes on Facebook. What do you guys think about sovereign citizens of America?
I think they're hilarious. And technically speaking, you can't be a sovereign citizen of America, because if you're a sovereign citizen, you are a person without a country. In which case, I feel like you should be deported.
Yep.
If you're gonna have a deportation force of people that came into the country illegally, then apparently these people were born illegal. If you want to talk about
libertarian daydream, that they can be a traveler and not get every benefit from society until it inconveniences them.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like sidewalks. They want to be able, the idea that sidewalks are a common. We make sidewalks so that people in wheelchairs largely don't have to walk in the street, and and that's they don't have to roll through the street, I guess. But back in the day, that women in dresses didn't have to walk in the mud. So we create these sidewalks for that. And then you look at somebody who wants to set up shop on it. They're these sovereign citizen folks who are trying to set up a full shop on that. And no, you got to leave clearance so that someone in a wheelchair can go by, because that's what these are actually for. And they're like, nope, I don't believe in your laws. I can sell anything I want and never pay taxes, and I can take over any property because I own the land in my within arm's reach at all times. And their car is a naval vessel or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their maritime law.
I'm not driving this vehicle. I'm a traveler.
Right, which is just goofy, and it's like...
Someone in the chat said that there are sovereign citizens in Australia as well. Congrats.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me tell you something. All of these folks are ballooned by Russian and Chinese bots and spoilers. They get, this has always been around on a minor level. But what gave it a boost and made all these people actually think it was functional was all these fake YouTube channels and online, forums where you could figure out how to do it. All of it's written by the Kremlin. And so they're trying to get these people to be basically violent spoilers, because what destabilizes a society more than rando morons who think they don't have to follow the law, rolling around in vehicles that aren't registered with an unlicensed gun in the car, that feel like they can defend their property with their life if they're pulled over? It's like setting little disinfo grenades that actually can blow up and kill people everywhere. I mean, like, okay, so the Uhuru movement, which was these like borderline Moorish Americans, like black revolutionary, black supremacist organization that was busted not too long ago, used to post these videos online, and their leader was this like amazingly flamboyant, closeted gay man who was just way over the top and angry, and it was all about like black communism and like all the talking points just rolled into one. Well, we now know, of course, that they were paid directly by the Kremlin. Like they were funded, their rent was paid, their phones were paid for, like all their money. And had they not murdered one of their own fellow travelers, for lack of a better word, and had his dead body tied to a chair where they had beat him to death, and the place got raided by the police, that might have not been found out kind of ever. They would have looked like, oh, it's just it's America. We got crazies. That's what happens. Just a black nationalist movement group, and they just feel like they want, they might make some odd demands here and there, like the Black Hebrew Israelites, right? Nick Cannon's group. The guys who stand on the on the sidewalk in Philadelphia and yell at Jews, like about how they're the real Jews, and Jews are like Ashkenazi Europeans who don't deserve the space, and that Obama and Oprah and all the black people that we know as famous in the United States are actually East Indian people who were merged with the Cherokee. It's just silly. Like, it's amazing. Like, if you go to like the Blacks for Trump website, if you go and scroll down and look through his videos, that's what it is. That whole like blacksfortrump.org thing that he was using, that's how he got people to go to his website. And he's one of these kind of like Moorish American Black Hebrew Israelite groups. And then, by the way, that's why they're third on the list of the FBI's domestic terrorism fear, because that's the kind of death toll they have and damage toll they have. They take over people's houses, they kill their own every so often. Sometimes they blow stuff up, sometimes they shoot people, but they're nowhere near like the Peckerwood gangs in white prisons, or like white gangs in prisons, and then they're kind of subsidiary white nationalists. Yeah, we got to take a break. We'll come back after this with a happy ending, and we made it through the show, I think, and hopefully Chicago will be able to make something out of this mess. We'll be right back on WCPT.
I have faith in them.
I do. We're almost there. I can't tell if people are walking above me or coming down the stairs. All right. Just doing this in my cousin's basement, so it's the only place I wouldn't bother everybody. It's a mixed vote house, let's just say. Yeah. But all right, let's come back now and
let's bring it back.
Yep, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the show. Johnny Million, love you very much. The catcade.org is the organization that we would like you to throw some love to in honor of Flora, who passed. Everybody in the Chicagoland area, if you feel like donating, that would be a lovely thing. Just let them know it's for Flora. And also, if you don't want to donate online or whatever,
make a
just go visit
online and go visit.
That's right. Go down there, play some games, pet some cats, buy some merch, that kind of thing. Foster programs and no-kill shelters are our jam around here. So
they are.
It's lovely of you. And Johnny Million, I give you a giant virtual hug, and I adore you. And I won't start. If you get a box on your front step that's meowing and is really heavy, it's not Chip, I promise.
It's gonna be you meowing.
That's right, it will be, yeah.
How I know it's you. Meow, meow.
No, it's not.
It's not me. Oh, no. Crap.
No. So that said, it would be a very lovely happy ending if people would support there. And if you're not near the catk.org, you're listening someplace else, and there's a no-kill shelter or a cat cafe or something that supports fostering and all that stuff in your area, you can certainly donate in Flora's name there as well.
Consider fostering.
Yeah, and I'm not going to bug you.
I can foster.
No.
And every foster social media account I follow, I'm like, well, you're going to keep that cat, right?
Yeah. I mean, Chip's a foster fail. Yeah, absolutely. The rest of ours are all ferals or rescues. So we're, we're definitely paring down to this crowd. Like, I don't think we're, going to expand the number anytime soon. We had to fill out paperwork just to have a fifth cat when we kept Chip, because if you have more than 4 cats in a house, yeah, you gotta. They
gotta check your.
You have to be a cat fancier.
Your motives, I guess. Are you hoarding? Yeah.
It's a cat. You literally have to have a cat fancier license, which sounds lovely. I'm a cat fancier.
Fancier license?
Which, yeah.
How do I not already have this?
I don't know. Well, because you've never had more than 5 cats, I think, or more than 4, or whatever. I don't know what the rule in Chicago is. It's probably 17.
I was in an apartment in Arlington Heights, and they had 3 cats. And I lived there for a while.
That's the max. That's I'm pretty sure it's 4. Once you clear 4, that's a pair per pair. So each of us has 2 cats, and we can monitor and manage. Yeah, once it starts spilling over into a 3rd litter box, then you get into real trouble. That said, I want to thank everybody for hanging in there with us. I know the show was early this morning for those that are watching online and the like, and I will do my best to rebroadcast it as well online, because I think we can rerun it, as it were, as live later on. But this is
you might be able to do that on Restream. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. So that said, there's the thing to watch out for, and I think this is the key going into the new year. And I want to wish everybody a happy new year. And I want to, should old acquaintances be forgot? No. The answer is no. Once and for all, no. Don't forget your old acquaintances. Well, they're acquaintances. Did you really remember them? I mean, it's an acquaintance. Yeah, and they're old acquaintances, so they never became friends. Why are we even talking about these people? I have an old acquaintance. Really? Oh, do you? You mean a side piece that you never told me about before?
Well,
I mean, that sounds like an old acquaintance to me. Yeah? I mean, Donna, one moment. Donna, go and tell Miss Summers that there's an Axel. Foley is here to see his old acquaintance. And cover this up. This is not like
this is not
animal
sexy.
To scrub to the customer. It's not sexy. It's animal. That is the only reference to old acquaintance I can think of.
Oh yeah,
pretty good. I say that even that again. He's an old acquaintance, so he should not be forgot. Yeah. So I hope you have. I know Johnny will have somebody to kiss on New Year's. I will not this year. No, I'm gonna have to do it virtually. Yeah, we'll be in Dallas, and hopefully we'll get to see our friend Texas Paul. But I'm not going to kiss him on New Year's. That would be inappropriate. But yeah, we will be doing New Year's in Dallas, and then after that, the road to normal shows again. I got to tell you, the holidays throw me for a loop when I'm trying to do road shows and all that kind of stuff, and talk to relatives and celebrate things and still do my live stream and stuff. It's a whole new thing that I have to deal with. It's very strange. I got to get better at taking vacations. I just suck at it. But
I'm really bad with vacations.
Yeah, I get it.
There is one more question that's a little funny from Mr. Spock.
Okay.
Can you ask Hal who's going to fill the Captagon void now that Syria has fallen?
The Captagon? Oh, yeah.
Captagon is, I had to Google it. It's evidently some sort of horrible drug.
Yeah. So it's not unique to the Houthis market their own. There's all I think it's that thing they chew on all the time. and it's like crack 'em in Florida, the alligator skin drug that makes your skin turn all bumpy and everything like that, and makes you nuts and turns you into a cannibal and stuff. It's believe me, it'll move around. Like they won't have a problem. If you want to talk about like areas where you can have giant. I mean, look at the cartels in Mexico. One of the reasons why they have thrived is because of big desert area away from cities, but that have roads that are conduits to multiple territories, including the United States. That's why they have thrived. And they don't. It's not in Guatemala where they have to go through the United States to do it, right? Or through Mexico to get to the United States to do it. Some of them go around through the water, but in areas like that, all through the Middle East, like they're all connected. There's dirt roads or flat ground everywhere. So the idea that they can just build these things, these labs out in the middle of nowhere to make stuff or grow stuff, and especially, I mean, it's one of the downsides they've said about like UN food supplies is that because we make such a big deal of rice and wheat and other like the kind of empty calorie type of puffery of food, you don't have to grow that, which takes up a lot of land. Wheat takes up a lot of land for per calorie, and so does rice. It's very complicated. Once you start flying that in and dropping it in giant bags, that frees up a bunch of land for untoward crops in some cases. And so so that's one of the costs of doing it that we always have to factor in. It's like, okay, if we supply them with this food, they won't grow their own, and what will they grow instead? Because the ground's not going to become less fertile. And usually it's not some old natural form of weed. It's opium.
I'm seeing some great old terms for it in the chat. Jazz cabbage.
Jazz cabbage? Oh yeah, right, sure. That would be poppies, right? Jazz cabbage.
I remember like jazz cigarettes and devil's lettuce, but jazz cabbage.
Yeah, the devil's lettuce was pot, I think, but jazz cabbage was heroin, wasn't it? It was like that was the idea of was like poppies. And again, I don't know. It's true. I take it back. I actually do know. I know the name for all this stuff. I just like it. I know, because as a comedian, it's my job. Okay. Can we talk about something on our way out the door, Johnny Million? Just set people into the new year, because I have a feeling in the new era of frankness, the new cruelty, as we like to call it, where we're going to be less concerned about the words people use and what their actual meaning is, so we can get past that quicker and not fight over the terminology and start fighting over the ideas, which is a better use of our time and our efforts and our righteous indignation. That as a comedian, I wish I didn't have to know all the stuff I know to make the references that I make and compare and contrast things in the same way that like over the Telegram channels that I've had to watch because of the Ukraine war, the stuff I've had to see.
Oy vey, yeah.
On top of that, and then like for I don't know how much I can even talk about this, but my cousin, because he's a marshal, there is some related P. Diddy information that he is privy to that he is obviously keeping very close to the chest. Like, he's not sharing it with me because he can't, right? But there was somewhere in the order of like 57 people are about to go down. Yeah, related to this thing. And Jay-Z trying to get his...
I should probably announce I'm going to have to go on a leave of absence soon.
Right, and I was going to say, I having like done a movie with Ashton Kutcher and sharing an office with his production group at when he did Punk'd at VH1, that we were across the hall from them, and I had to deal with their production staff and his producer, who is the single most miserable human being I have ever met in my life. He was almost as miserable as Greg Gutfeld's producer on Red Eye, who is like just walking hatred and sorrow. Just miserable. Like, I don't get it. Like, and all these people, gainfully employed, wealthy, Their job isn't that hard. They act like they've been forcibly sentenced to coal mining for a crime they didn't commit, and most of the time,
it's a choice.
It's so weird. It's so weird. But in sort of dealing with those people, I have that I know as much as I do about what went on at those parties and all that stuff, and having never gone. Right?
Oh boy.
And you know what? This is the one thing that I don't quite know how to wrap my head around, Johnny Million, because when I used to be on X, one of the things I get all the time was people calling you a B-lister or C-lister or D-lister or whatever. Yeah. They go after you like, you know, they pick something you used to do, ignore what you are doing, and then pretend you don't have a career anymore, and that kind of stuff. Whatever. And it's fine. It's not, but the weird part about it for me was when they call you a C-lister, and yet they talk about the A-list as they're all baby eaters. If the A-list is all evil baby eaters, then shouldn't you get some points for only being B and C-list? Like, all I am is an entertainer.
I don't have to eat any baby.
Yeah, I didn't eat a baby. I refused to eat the baby. So I guess
I really wanted to say that like Harry from Resident Alien.
Right. I am not eating a baby.
I am not eating a baby.
Right. I was going to eat some of you to see if it tasted like roast beef. That's when he's talking through his alien teeth.
It does not taste like pie.
So I always, that pushback has always been curious to me. All right, we're at the end of the show. I got to let you go, and I got to run and go catch a plane. I adore you. Thank you, Chicago, for playing with us. Yep, and much love to you, and big hugs through the interwebs. And thanks for having a different kind of a show with me today. It's kind of reminiscent of how the show used to be in the early days.
Yeah, I remember that.
Just our pattering about this. This will make a good podcast version, I think so. House Sparks Podcast, Megaworldwide. But share and share alike. We'll see you next time, and back to abnormal next week. Thanks so much, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
And we're out. So we'll just, hopefully Chicago can make some of that, and we'll be okay.
Yeah, I'll text Devin and see what he can do with it. I'll send him the link to the
YouTube channel
show, and if he can manage it.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. It should be okay. It's like I've sent him chunks of stuff in audio format before. This should be easier because he can at least watch what I'm doing, and when we're coming to and to and from stuff. So and get like ahead of each segment that way. But love you. Got to go. Talk to you later. Okay, bye. Okay.